In the early morning hours of September 26, 1933, federal agents surrounded a house in Memphis, Tennessee, where one of the most wanted gangsters was hiding. According to legend, George Machine Gun Kelly stepped from his room, raised his hands, and shouted, "Don't shoot, G-man!" The moment supposedly gave FBI agents the nickname that would follow them for generations. There was only one problem. Kelly probably never said it, so if Machine Gun Kelly didn't invent the term, what exactly was a G-man? The answer begins before Kelly's arrest, when the organization we now know as the FBI was considerably less famous. During the early 1930s, Bureau investigators were so unfamiliar to many Americans that they were sometimes confused with Secret Service agents or Prohibition officers. And the term G-man already existed. It was underworld slang for a government man, a federal investigator, and it could describe agents working for different branches of the federal government. It was not originally a special title for an FBI agent. Even the Bureau itself was undergoing changes. For part of this period, it was known as the Division of Investigation, and the name Federal Bureau of Investigation would not arrive until 1935. But while the Bureau was relatively unknown, the criminals it was chasing were becoming celebrities. Bank robbers and kidnappers such as John Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, Babyface Nelson, and the Barker Carpets Gang crossed state lines and filled newspapers with stories of robberies, escapes, and gun battles. Federal investigators were being drawn into increasingly visible manhunts, and Congress gave the Bureau greater authority, including the power to carry firearms and make arrests. The public was beginning to see a new kind of national lawman emerging at the exact same time that Depression-era outlaws were becoming national figures. Then came Machine Gun Kelly. In 1933, Kelly and his associates kidnapped wealthy Oklahoma oil man Charles Urschel and demanded $200,000 for his release. Federal investigators pursued the kidnappers across several state lines until they discovered that George and Catherine Kelly were hiding in Memphis. Before dawn on September 26, Bureau agents and Memphis police raided the house. Kelly was caught without a weapon and surrendered without a gunfight. What he actually said is uncertain. Some early accounts had a tired Kelly saying little more than that he had been expecting the officers. Another version gave history something much better. Kelly supposedly came out and, with his hands raised, and begged, "Don't shoot, G-man." That version was irresistible. Newspapers repeated it, and although the FBI now acknowledges that Kelly probably never uttered the famous line, the legend arrived exactly at the right moment. Bureau agents were soon hunting Dillinger, Floyd, Nelson, the Barkers, and Alvin Karpis, and an organization once unfamiliar to much of the public was suddenly appearing in headlines across the country. By 1935, G-men had become closely associated with the FBI agents in the American imagination. The image became almost as recognizable as the gangsters themselves. The government agent in a suit and a fedora, pursuing bank robbers from one state to another. The nickname was simple, dramatic, and perfectly suited to newspapers and popular culture. In September 1935, an article in the Bureau's own employee magazine acknowledged several nicknames for its investigators, including justice agents, DJ men, and government men, but described G-men, for short, government men, as perhaps the most widespread. Before long, the G-man was selling stories of his own. Pulp magazines placed illustrated federal agents on the covers, confronting kidnappers, bank robbers, and gunmen in scenes every bit as dramatic as the outlaw stories that had filled newspapers only a few years earlier. In 1935, G-Man magazine appeared on newsstands devoted largely to fictional adventures of federal agents, while Hollywood released James Cagney's G-Man. The image spread beyond magazines and movie theaters. G-man toys, handcuffs, and even children's clothing appeared for sale. The gangster had become a celebrity during the early Depression, but now the government agent hunting him had become a hero Americans could buy at the newsstand. So Machine Gun Kelly probably did not invent the words G-man. He may have not even spoken them during his arrest. But the story of his surrender helped transform an existing piece of underworld slang into something much larger. At almost the same moment, that FBI was acquiring its modern name and becoming famous for pursuing America's public enemies. The G-men became the public image of the federal agent chasing them. and that may be why the legend survived. The real origin of G-Men is less dramatic than a frightened gangster surrendering his hands in the air. But sometimes history remembers the story that best captures the moment. Machine Gun Kelly didn't create the G-Men. He simply became part of the story that made America remember the name. Thank you all for liking and subscribing to the channel. If you would like to write the Eclectic Historical Society at this address, we will write you a letter back on our 1930 Corona 4 typewriter. With that being said, this is the Eclectic Historical Society, and remember, history is lost if it is not repeated.